All right, y'all, you are in for a treat with this episode. We've got my main guy, Antonio, on this one. It is our first in-person podcast with Because of Sales. And honestly, I don't know if there could have been a better first in-person podcast. We talk about everything from the first sales job, month one, all the way up to his plans to sell the current venture for $1 billion with a B. Antonio is one of the hardest working guys that I know, one of the most connected guys that I know, and a really awesome dude to learn from. So get ready for a good one. Before we get into it, you guys, please go to that first link in the description. Subscribe to our newsletter. Because of Sales is a newsletter first media company showing you how the best sellers, business owners, and salespeople both are doing it. Every week, we're sending cutting edge information, resources, tools, interview insights straight to your inbox so you know exactly what is working right now. We are industry agnostic, so you can very likely take things from one industry and apply it to yours. But our whole thing is just wanting to help you create leverage by selling so you can live a good life as a result. So again, guys, first link in the description. Subscribe to our newsletter. Get a lot of cool stuff and the highlights of these episodes every week in your inbox. And now let's get into it. What's up, you guys? Because of Sales podcast, the podcast that is designed to help you sell more, easier, so you actually enjoy your life as a result of being in sales and not find yourself in sales job prison or sales prison as a business owner. This guest for this week, there's 3 cameras here. This is a crazy setup. First in-person podcast with Because of Sales, but our guest of this week is Antonio. Antonio is a very trusted source, someone who I'm ecstatic to have on the podcast, and you guys are about to learn a lot. So Antonio, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Yeah, that's awesome that this is the first in-person one. So
yeah,
I'm blessed and honored, man.
This is going down in the history books because we're working on a studio for once I get the new place. We're having a studio in there, but for the time being, we are renting one, which is cool. So,
shout out JJ. Appreciate you, man.
Shout out JJ. So you're here from Tampa right now in Austin, Texas. You got a stacked agenda. We got dinner later. Why are you here from Tampa right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of times with everything I'm doing is always just relationship based, right? So a lot of opportunities come up and you have to discern which opportunities are worth flying to another state, objectively saying no to other things that are going on in your life. And when I do that, when those opportunities come up as such to connect with you, I had just went on Brad's podcast, who the Beyond the Million, he owns Easy Pay Direct, massive entrepreneurs, had multiple big guys on there. So it's like, that's a great opportunity to come out to Austin for. Yeah. And I don't come out here often enough. So I'm like, okay, cool. How do I maximize the opportunity that I'm presented? So then I was like, all right, cool. I'll do the podcast with Brad. Then I'll go on Dylan's podcast. Then I'll have Dylan on my podcast. Then I'll have 2 meetings. And then we'll host dinner for 18 founders. Yeah. And then I'll have coffee and lunch with someone tomorrow and bring my bags and to that stuff and just hop on a plane and go back. So
that's a lot of what you guys do, because what the business... For anyone who doesn't know what you guys do, can you give like the high level really quick?
Yeah, so the business operates, and I'm proud to say now that the name is Fractional Family Office, so that's the new name of the company. It used to be GFG Solutions, and so what a fractional family office is essentially you have these billionaires, these 9-figure net worth guys that they have their own in-house team of like financial advisors, bankers, CPAs, accountants, real estate guys, all this type of stuff. And those people are on that person's payroll. It's going to cost them a couple $1 million plus to have that team that's just dedicated to building the net worth of that family. I believe that 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs that haven't built that net worth yet, but have the income that needs those types of advisors, still need that type of advice. So we've essentially fractionalized it and created a fractional family office so that we plug in as the entrepreneur's chief wealth officer. So they can sit in the seat where all they have to do is focus on generating revenue while we do all the other BS behind the scenes.
So it's a very valuable service that this guy's providing. And you said it much better than I would have said. I would have just said he helps with tax strategy, helps me with business stuff. I've been a client of y'all's for not quite a year yet, but a good amount, good enough time for me to kind of know what you guys are about, the value that you bring. One of the highest ROI relationships, he's not paying me for this, but one of the highest ROI relationships him and Landon bring to the table. But a lot of your business, going back to what I was mentioning, is traveling, like shaking hands, meeting people in person. I see you're always jumping on and off of planes. You're posting your stories. Where to next?
Yeah.
What's it like in that business? Because I know you work with a lot of online guys. You work with some younger guys, some older guys, all different types of businesses. But like traveling, jumping around cities, states, like what is that like for you?
Draining, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
Like funny enough, I'm a pretty introverted guy, but I'm an outgoing introvert. So I know when I have to be extroverted, I'm ready to play. So I'm most of the time if my life is spent preparing, and then those small minutes of game time, like I'm ready to go and I'm willing to be as outgoing as I need to get the job done. And so with that, that requires a lot of travel because we run, especially now, a very high ticket service, and we swam upstream of clientele where most of our clients now are worth, 40, 50 million plus dollars. So most of the times we're working with rather that type of client or the younger entrepreneur that is making tons of money for the first time. And I'm very passionate about that because like, I wish I had that guy when I first started making money.
Yeah.
So I make it a very big point to, within the first 5 to 6 months of the relationship, because we do business virtually most of the time, to fly out to that person and shake hands, break bread, have dinner with those individuals, because business is done in person.
Yeah.
As much as we want to believe, like I'm a huge believer in online remote sales and all that type of stuff, but that doesn't mean you don't host meetups, right? Like you still hosting meetups. There's still really good opportunities to shake hands and be belly to belly with people that transcends the online space. I've just come to find that there's like a formula to do that and to maximize the ability to build network. And then also like traveling to new places is pretty cool. Once you dial in on like how to prioritize your energy and how it, not disrupt the flow of your life. It's a pretty good opportunity to see new places while also maximizing the business value because of the fact that we don't run ads.
Yeah.
So like we've done 8+ figures at this point without a single advertisement. So it's all relationship stuff. So being able to deposit value in person just has people talking about you quicker, in my opinion.
Yeah. What prompted you guys to go, like you said, upstream? Because when I started working with you guys, I know that I don't know like numbers or much around the business itself, but I know you were a lot more open to working with people, entrepreneurs of my size at that time. But now, after just having more conversations with you, you guys are working with like bigger people, like you said, 40, 50 million. So what ultimately led you going upstream like that? And what's it like? What's the difference working with the 7-figure entrepreneur versus the 8 and the 9-figure?
Great question. I think the 8 and the 9-figure have more complicated shit going on, and it's typically more of a mess than less of a mess. So I think that's a common misconception with a lot of people, that they think the person that has more money is more organized. There's a reason why they're hiring us, right? Because their advisors are just all over the place and all their stuff's completely out of whack. That's not everyone, but a lot of people that I encounter, which is the pain point we solve, right? So I think there's an opportunity just from a business standpoint, like you can charge significantly more and immediately bring more value and work with less clients, which is like the perfect ideal scenario because that allows you to scale a lot healthier. Because my biggest detriment was that like we were accepting on a lot of clients, and I'm responsible for the business development side of our business. So I'm the forward facing guy. And so like if I'm responsible for bringing people in, I'm going to bring a shit ton of people in, but our team couldn't handle the volume of people that I was bringing in. And we started to realize that 6 to 12 months later, we weren't able to bring as much value as we were early on. And it's because we were taking on the wrong clients at times. So just because you can take on the client doesn't mean that you should take on the client. Because I'm looking for lifelong clients, especially with the way that our business model works. We are significantly more profitable in years 3 to 5 and beyond. So we want to focus on how do we create an experience, especially if you're looking to build wealth. It's not done in 1 year.
Yeah.
How do we keep our clients forever and paying a relatively high ticket price? So it just comes down to like identifying who you like to serve and also like who you enjoy being around. Like there's clients, like for example, you and I, we've not only deposited value in the world, but we became friends, and we've been able to like do business with each other outside of it, or just introduce each other to the network. Me introducing you to somebody becomes a value add for me because I know you're going to impact that person's life. So those are the types of relationships that I'm looking to build. I know I went off on a tangent, but that's
no, that makes
bit of what I've
sense. I
experienced.
mean, the people with more money, you can provide more value and charge more for it. And as a business, why would you not do that, right?
That's the thing. What most people come to find is like, people will actually pay you significantly more to condense the time it takes to get a result, right? Which sounds simpler than it is because a lot of people are trying to elongate their process so that they can stay valuable for longer. That doesn't mean we don't want to keep clients for longer, but the quicker that you can increase what we call your time to value, the more you can charge. So if I can immediately solve a problem within 2 weeks that people haven't been able to solve for years, you can charge 10 times as much as most people.
Yeah. I can attest to the time to value because when I first started with you guys, I was working with someone else. They weren't doing a bad job, but I just spoke with you guys about something else and came on board, and immediately like there's people. I've actually never had this with any other service, so a little review for you here. Some of the work that you have the team doing as far as like following up on things that I forgot to do, like sending this to the accountant, sending this to this person, doing this with insurance, whatever it is. But having the team follow up for you, touch base with you, and then having all these different parties, these professionals who can kind of like chat together because you guys are like the glue between it all has been insanely helpful. Because I could imagine, especially you talked about that newer entrepreneur who's like starting to build wealth. You've never done it before. Like you don't know what it's supposed to look like. And so having y'all's team be able to like wheel you in the right direction and then provide those resources as far as connections is super valuable. This podcast, a lot of the people watching are salespeople. There's going to be some business owners as well. So I want to take this back a little bit because you mentioned your business development, but you didn't start in this business. Like you started in a subsector of what you currently do, right? What was like the first sales gig for you?
Life insurance. I started, and not the sexy type of life insurance that everyone's talking about now, where you can like get into an agency and just like get leads fed to you. No, it was like you were building your own practice inside of this thing and bugging friends and family, begging for referrals, doing scratching and clawing.
Yeah.
Like crazy, dude. Like I started pre-COVID, so I had the opportunity to like, I was driving to people's houses in a suit and tie to take meetings that were maybe in a perfect world generating me like $500 of commission. When you take that archaic business model and then start to really accelerate it with the online space and you leverage those strategies, things can accelerate really quickly.
Yeah.
But what was your question? I'm sorry. I guess that was
the first sales job. Yeah. So you went to school, you graduated, right?
Yeah. I played
degree?
baseball. Business administration, but I barely went to class, to be honest with you.
So how did you go from business administration to, you know what, dude, like I want to wear the suit and tie and drive to people's houses. Like, how'd you get there?
Yeah, I certainly didn't want to wear the suit and tie and land at people's houses. I was a baseball player my whole life, and I graduated with a 4.0, but just because I cheated on all my stuff. I'm just being completely honest. That actually built my sales skills a lot more because I was able to like quote unquote manipulate my way through college. That was more beneficial than learning fucking geometry. Excuse my language, by the way. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, we can.
All right, cool. So with that, I was about to play professional baseball and things kind of went sideways. And so I just resorted to just like a depression, identity loss for months and months of not knowing what to do with my life after college. And the first opportunity I was introduced to was life insurance sales with like a big corporate company. And I was like, you know what? This sounds cool. The guy who sold me on the opportunity was like very charismatic, made like $5 million a year. And I was like, yeah, this seems like something I could do. Made 25 grand in my first month. And I was like, yo, this is dope. This is easy. Until I realized that the next month I made $0 because my pipeline was dry and no one's handing you leads. Yeah. So like that was not easy, but it was a rude awakening that I needed for sure.
Was that just like, all right, you're the new sales rep, go tell everybody you know about what we do and sell it to them?
Literally, of like how many of your friends and family will like take your call, and some of your like you start to realize some of your friends and family are not as supportive as you think as well.
Oh yeah,
because I believe in life insurance. It's an actual product that like people truly need, even at the smallest level of scales. Like I personally own over $10 million of life insurance because like why not? If I die, my family gets a lot of money and it's pretty low cost.
Yeah,
and you could do it. I don't want to get into it on this podcast, but you could do it in a way where like you can massively benefit during your life. That being said, I was hitting up everyone, dude. Like I was to the point where I didn't know how to build systems or anything. So like I would go on Zillow and like filter down to like what would be the homes that were on sale the last like 30 days and personally input all those addresses into an Excel sheet, not even export data, and then write up a personalized handwritten letter to these hundreds of things and then put them all in an envelope myself and drive them to people's houses and got zero responses from that. Yeah. Like, of just like genuinely like wasting time of just all this trial and error stuff. I would sit down and go to like these places that were like daycares and things like that. And I would have a child ID machine. So the parents would come and we would be able to make ID cards for your parent, for your children, which is statistically, you're more likely to find your child if they get lost, if you have a fingerprint ID card and stuff. So it was good. It was good value and the parents loved it, but you had to fill out an information card to be able to obtain one. So then I'd get a lead from that. Like it was like the craziest shit, dude.
That's a method, dude. I've heard a lot of ways to generate leads and how to different ways, but I've never heard that. The child ID card to the life insurance pipeline. How long did you end up just strictly selling life insurance?
Yeah, that probably 2 years, 3 years. And the way that we were able to accelerate it is like once we figured out how to launch a podcast virtually, the virtual podcast is like the quickest way to accelerate your network because you can have a ton of introductions and meet people. And then if you're strategic about how you build a network, you can be a value add in someone's life. And the best way to get business and referred to you is by referring more business. As you know, like I'm a radical referrer of business. It's almost overwhelming for some people because they just get put in like 20 group chats. But that was kind of the model that we started running, and we started to reverse engineer a way to get our ideal joint venture avatar on our podcast, built enough value and deposited enough to where we were mutually beneficial value adds to each other, and solved the lead gen problem forever pretty much through that.
I've listened to some episodes of your podcast, but I haven't seen you guys, like, I don't see you guys promoting this like super far and wide. I think the way that I found it was, I wasn't like digging for it, but like I definitely had to like look a little bit to get to the podcast. Why don't you guys just like blast distribution, like do the whole social thing?
It's a great question. I get asked that a lot. Like we've probably done over 5 million in sales from the podcast, and I think our biggest episode maybe got like 1,000 views. It's legitimately optimized for reverse engineering the experience that we want the guest to feel, not the audience. That doesn't mean that the podcast isn't valuable. It's really like, they're like 30 to 45 minute, really super tactical, high level business owners coming on the podcast to extract like what their journey was and how does our audience get value from it. And a lot of times we'll do it from the perspective of tactical things that our clients should be thinking about, and we'll just send these podcasts to our clients. So it's a beautiful dynamic there. That being said, we knew that we didn't want to optimize for listenership because it's a whole different ballgame. We optimized for the experience of the guest, where they would come on, we would find out what the best gift was that's personal to them. We'd send them a gift, we'd thank them, we'd send them a bunch of business, we'd refer them. I would say 4 to 5 out of every 10 people would be overwhelmed with so much value. We would never ask for anything that they would feel obligated to reciprocate in some way, shape, or form, which led to really good things. The new podcast that I just launched is more of an in-person, designed for like more like YouTube virality stuff, because I think we're ready for that too.
It's such a different world because you work with a lot of these online guys. You know, we've hung out with a few of them together. Cool dudes, but the way that some of these online businesses are ran, like pretty short sales cycle, transactional, versus what you just mentioned, like playing the long game, giving value, building it with the idea of like the guest experience instead of viewership. Like it's a completely backwards model that is obviously working for you guys compared to the one that's popping right now, which is paid ad, sales call, like just the super fast stuff. Kind of getting into what you do now with Fractional Family Office. That was the first time I heard the name on this podcast. When did you realize life insurance by itself was not the vehicle for you? And then was it GFG that you went to, or was there something?
Yep. So we sold our agency that we had started after, like, we quit our jobs after we launched the podcast because it was creating so much momentum that we launched an agency. And when I said we, it's me and Landon. And from there, we were still doing a lot of like the financial advisory stuff, cookie cutter, life insurance, investments, all that type of stuff. But if you're working with business owners specifically, they need a lot more than products. They need advice, and they need someone to like hold their hand and actually make sure that the very important but not urgent things in their world are getting done, because those are typically the most important things in your life. But there's so many fires that are popping up in your business that you need to be in survival mode. So like taxes, legal, asset protection, contract work, optimizing your balance sheet, blah, 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 exiting your company. We were just like, hey, that's a need in the market. Let's go solve that need, because you can also charge a recurring fee. And I'll never go to any business model that doesn't have recurring revenue at this point, because like, what a safe way to build a business. And to your point, like, we never did the whole like run a paid ad to the thing. And because like, I'm looking for staying power, because like I will forego making more money in the short term to like virtually guarantee that I'll make money and secure cash flow forever. So with that, like, I'm investing in skills, I'm investing in network, and ultimately doing every single thing under the umbrella of integrity. And I'm willing to forego tens and tens of millions of dollars of opportunities because I know they're not actually like inside of my core value system.
So when you were selling life insurance, when you went into this new model, was it easy for you to be a salesperson?
No, because I didn't really, like, I needed to figure out what I was going to, like, how I was going to deliver value to the market. But once I figured that out, because I pretty much forewent every single thing that I was doing. And for 5 months, I just listened in on my mentor's calls, like sat in his office, made no money. I had $100,000 in my bank account when I was, not working. And by the time I was through with that 5 months, I had significantly less than $100,000 in my bank account. And I had this belief though, that I was like, once we're able to go to market with this thing and I learn just enough of what I need to, we're golden. Within a year and a half, we were at a $3 million run rate. Like the second that we started, we were like, boom, we're good. The business is crushing, and all under the pretense of like building an awesome, badass experience for our clients. Because we're creating this more like exclusive place where you're not only just a client and receiving value, but then you're involved with all these other people that you're connected with that are also clients, and you can make magic with them together. So it ended up being the easiest quote unquote sale because we don't do sales. So this is not something that I'm going to recommend anyone, but this is how I go about business. I'm always telling people to elongate their sales cycle because we're in this like lack of trust economy right now where people are still buying at an all-time high, but they're just buying a little bit longer and for people that are actually good, that have track records. So we don't do sales calls. We just do value deposits. It's a 4-step process and we literally give them all of the advice. We don't gatekeep anything because our value prop is the implementation of it all. So you've experienced it. So it's very low pressure.
I was going to ask you if I could talk about it a little.
Please, yeah.
My partner and I in the agency that I sold, we're looking for some help with some business things that we had never dealt with before. And there was no sales call. It was like we chatted on the phone for 30 minutes, like 4 times. And by the end of it, we had everything laid out in front of us. Like, hey, this is what you should probably do, but it's a lot of work. Do you want us to do it for you? And it was like, at that point, it was a no brainer to jump on the opportunity, which you're right. Like elongated sales cycle. I kind of lean in that direction as well. Building more value before like asking for the sales, so to speak, because I'm more interested in that long-term thinking versus like the quick like cash injection. Because honestly, there's probably been a time where you took a client on too early, you rushed the process or something like that, and then they become a nightmare on the back end. They end up not being clients for that long. Like you're nodding, like that's happened before, right?
Way too many times.
Okay. Are you like adamant about this 4-call process, like going through the whole thing at this point, or?
Yeah, I will even like. There's guys that are literally worth hundreds of millions of dollars to be like, yo, just send me your invoice tomorrow. I'm like, no, I have to take you through the process because I need to know that I can continue to bring value. And I also need to know that like, we're going to like each other through this because I don't care how much money you're worth. If we're not going to jail, I'm not going to take you on, especially if you're not saying that this person's scamming anyone, but like, especially if you're scamming, I've had to forego a lot of opportunities, especially with these online business owners of like, if you're not doing everything under the scope of integrity, any black hat stuff, I'm not willing to support because I'm focused on making you wealthier. So I would be perpetuating the problem. Even at the point where it's like, hey, here's everything that you should be doing. Here's how much it costs for us to do it. Even if they say yes at that point, I say, I still want you to take 3 days, 4 days to think about it. I don't want to sell you based on emotion because I can easily tell you how valuable this thing is. I need you to sit with it logically so that you would believe that it's still the thing after the emotions die down. And then we have another 5-minute call on like, let's go.
Yeah.
That's a 95% success rate for that process.
I even remember because your partner Landon, great guy, went to Japan with him.
Yep.
What a character.
Oh man.
He was here. He came down to Austin for the Austin Marathon. We ran it kind of together on the same day. But he was telling me about like sometimes you guys will like take on people who, you know, you don't really hear from them much. They pay the invoice, no question asked, but they don't implement what you guys are telling them to do. And he said that previously you guys have decided to just like end client relationships because even though they're not upset, there's no problem on their end, like they're just not doing what you're saying, and for that reason, like why are you a client of ours?
Yeah, we could seriously bill them for the rest of their lives and they wouldn't rather know or care, but we won't do that because it's not worth our goodwill as well as our track record. If I'm not getting results for you, I can't continue to keep this client relationship because whatever we're charging you it's not worth the money because we're looking to build a brand. And I don't like cash flow is very important, very, very, very important to me. But also everything that we're doing is with enterprise value in mind because I'm looking to exit this thing for $1 billion. And I'm not saying that lightly, like very serious about that. So with that, you need to make sure you have a really good client book that's actually actively getting results because people talk. And so like the testimonials are huge, case studies, all that type of stuff. You need the proof and the track record of the results that you bring. And we're auditing our client relationships every month of like, who should we be firing as a client? Especially like before, like because if they're not experiencing us, we at least have the opportunity to fire them before they fire us. And it's our fault, even though they're not answering our calls.
All right, guys, quick break for the sponsor of this podcast, the Serial Sales Community. The Serial Sales Community has been around for about 3 years now, focusing on helping people break into the 1099 remote setting closing space. While a lot of these businesses in this space focus on sales training, we focus on the stuff that actually moves the needle. All the stuff before an interview, the applications, and then giving you proximity to these opportunities. The opportunities that we're talking about, 1099 remote stuff, you're not going to find it on LinkedIn or Indeed, Glassdoor, any of those. These are primarily coaching, consulting, services, B2C and B2B both, software, masterminds, mentorships, communities, not really your standard 1099 commission stuff like insurance or door-to-door. If you're interested in getting access to the most active hiring channel in that industry, the second link below is going to show you how we can help you break into it. If you do submit an application and mention because of sales, you'll get 5% off any membership you choose. So if you're tired of that sales job, second link in the description. Now back to the pod. If you had to guess, the total number of clients within GFG and now Fractional Family Office that you've brought on as clients, not how many are with you currently, but like how many clients have you put through this onboarding system?
Multiple hundreds. It's probably at least like through the sales process, quote unquote sales process, probably over 1,000 at this point. Which is really cool because you have the opportunity to interview people from all different industries and everyone's doing it minimum 7 figures, right? So like I just took on a client that is worth over $50 million and he sells sheep semen. Like what the how do you even make that much money selling sheep semen, right? So like really like you get the opportunity to learn from some awesome ass people. Like I learn more from you than you learn from me long term. So it's a beautiful opportunity that I will never really forego many opportunities to at least connect with people on the front end. I'll be very strategic about who we continue to take through the process. But yeah, hundreds and hundreds of people.
So of potentially thousands of people that you've had go through, hundreds and hundreds at least, you've definitely probably refined your system from this person just found out about us to they become a client to they are a happy client in like managing expectations, onboarding processes. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've learned in doing that successfully? And potentially from the ones that weren't successful, like what did you learn from those that you do now besides just maintaining the structure of the sales process?
The more due diligence and work you could put in on the front end, the better it saves you on the back end. And that's pretty much with everything in business and life. Like, for example, I believe passive income's a myth. The only way to get passive income is by really working your ass off on the front end. The more active you can make it in the beginning, the more passive it can be in the long term. But you can't cut corners on the front end because it will destroy you on the back end. And in the business that we play in, the space we play in, getting destroyed on the back end costs millions of dollars. So I learned through trial and error that we're playing a higher stakes game, and nothing's worth cutting the corner to take on someone that is not going to be like, you'll start to understand patterns of this person's going to be right. And then just really focusing on having the client tell you what are the exact priorities that you want to get achieved that would make this a success in the first 60 days. So it's like, you've taken years to get these things even addressed in your world. In 60 days, we're getting you the top 3 wins in your life within reason, right? Yeah. And so once they experience that, even if they come with pushback, I at least have data. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really understanding what those priorities are. And we keep that at the top of our project management system in every client file, because every single member on our team knows exactly what that client's priorities are, because every advice that anyone on the team is going to give them is with those priorities in mind. And then we're just tracking internally like a temperature checks on every client. Who have we had not met with? Like, when was their last meeting? Is it green, yellow, or red? Or like, who needs some love right now? Do we need to fly out to this person and give them some love? Should we be introducing them to this person? Like, we're very strategic. It's very tough because like it's tough to scale, but it's I promise you those little things are what makes you like a little bit more special in the business, in my opinion.
If I ever just want to have you guys in town for dinner, I can tell Vinny to mark my file as red and we'll get you out here.
It's we definitely systemize it, but it's with like the client never feels it. Like like there's very personable stuff going on the front end.
I want to ask you about this because the people listening to this are salespeople, business owners in all different industries. Like pretty much anyone selling anything, we want to help you make it easier by providing perspective. Since you've gotten into sales, you've been dealing within the space of like some of the most sensitive information or topics within a person's life and business. What have you taken away from dealing with those things versus selling cars?
Yep.
Like,
yeah. So I don't have much experience selling cars, but I think this transcends everything in sales. Like you hear a lot about rapport building, right? But how are you actually going about building rapport? And are you asking the right questions? Are you attacking people's questions and answers with more questions? Or are you immediately just trying to get to your quote unquote pitch, right? The more you can truly just put it back on them and ask and ask and ask, people love to talk about themselves, especially if you can find ways to incorporate vulnerability. When we're talking about finance stuff, like I'm trying to get like my pants down metaphorically as quickly as possible because I need people to like just let their guard down in an integrous way, right? Because we're talking about sensitive stuff that people don't want to talk about. So just bringing in comedy, humor, but like naturally. And I think that it all comes down to like, that's the level of preparation that you need to be doing behind the scenes where you need to be training a ton. And it's not just training in sales calls, right? You'll get your at-bats and you'll get better and you'll listen to the reviews. You'll join Dylan's community and you'll get better. And if you're not in Dylan's community, I don't know what to say. That's foolish of you. But that being said, it's like people will gravitate towards people that are a little bit more fit because you're more disciplined in that area. Are you mentally sharp? Can you allude to interesting things and tell better stories? What are you doing on the personal development side that makes you a valuable human? Because if you believe in the product, like we're going to do it, we're going to talk about salespeople that are actually selling something that is an actual good product. That's the bare minimum. Because if you're not selling a good product or service, like, don't sell it. That's a bad idea. Then how do you get them to buy you? Because that's what you're doing. That's like, for me, I'm always just looking at like, people do business with people, and I don't sell. I'm like as rough around the edges as it gets, as you could probably tell. So I don't use really any tactics. You can leverage things like mirroring, repeating back to them, helping them clarify and understand. But it's really about just like giving people what they need and making sure that they know you're the right guy to be doing business with long term.
I think it just comes down to like you said, there's tactics, there's frameworks and scripts and all this stuff, but do you actually care, and can they tell that you care?
None of it matters if your energy's off. You can have the best script in the world. If you're like, if they feel your uncertainty, the most certain person in the room out influences the least certain person in the room. So how do you make sure that you are the most certain person in the room? Like, charisma can be built. It's a skill. So like, just build it.
I wanted to ask you about, generally speaking, because you deal with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, and a lot of these people have sales backgrounds. Like, that's foundational building block of what a lot of these people are coming from. When you look at like your younger client base, these guys that are 7-8 figures, scaling rapidly, let's talk like 30 and under. If you have some that are like 25 and under, let's talk about that.
I got 19-year-olds that are in the 8-figure range. It's crazy.
So yeah, like what's different about them?
I would say, I mean, there's still an immaturity level there, right? And that's something that you ultimately, like, if you don't have experience, like, it takes years to build experience, right? But the cool thing about what we're trying to bring as a value proposition is that, like, you could just buy our experience.
Yeah.
So like you can mitigate the stupid tax you pay along the way. But I think there's two types of people, especially when you're younger, and especially when you're making money: the person that thinks they know it all, and the person that simply doesn't. That's actually willing to take objective feedback from people and internalize that and listen to it. And then there's also like parlaying that with like people that are not willing to cut corners, because you can make a ton of money, but you can do it very non-integrously. And most people I have a big vendetta, which is what the new podcast is really about, is that like, it's not very common for you to be 20 years old making $10 million a year. Like, there's very likely a situation where like very few of these people are actually doing it under the scope of integrity. There's a lot of black hat stuff going on, right? Yeah. And I learned very quickly not to envy that at all. Because I moved to Miami like 4 years ago. I live in Tampa now. But when I was in Miami, it was like the most superficial thing of all time. And you're like, wow, I don't care how much money these guys are making. These guys are scammers. Not everyone in Miami, but the general vibe, right? So I would just like really dive deep into defining your own version of success, because if you don't, you're going to borrow someone else's version of success, and it's going to leave you empty no matter how much money you make. The younger guys that I meet, they are like just like super grateful to have the opportunity to be there, and know that it's like not common for them to be in this position, and they don't know what they don't know. Like, take John, for example. What a great fucking dude, man. Excuse my language, but like, what a incredible, humble dude that's crushing. I think you just had him on
episode 2.
Yeah. I love that guy, man. He's just such a good dude. And you could tell, like, when you see him, this guy has a good set of core values and beliefs. He's not looking to cut corners and wants to play the long game. And the cool thing about playing the long game is you could still get incredibly wealthy in the short term. A lot of people don't think, like, they mismatch the two. Like, you can get rich and wealthy at the same exact time. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question directly. But
no, it does. You've mentioned a couple of times the word integrity and different variations of it. And I've heard you speak about that before as well. Like, why is that so important to you?
Because I didn't used to have it, and it put me in a bad spot in my life. I was able to, and I never did non-integrous things with the intention of like hurting anyone, but that would be the consequences. Like, if you're a high-performing individual, like usually when you're in high school and stuff, like, you could get away with a lot of shit, but at what cost? And typically it's like when you're like, if you were, being stupid with like, relationships back in the day and all those types of things, right? And it's like, it's just normal childish stuff and I never did anything like super illegal or anything like that. But I would be really good when people were watching, knowing when like my coaches were watching or these types of people, but then I wouldn't be doing the right things behind the scenes. So I was like, that did not serve me after college, because like you go from being the man as a baseball player and all this type of stuff to like, you're just a normal ass dude. Go back to the bottom. You need that humbling. At least I needed it. And so with that, I was like, let me choose to live a life with integrity, because I also believe in God and it's a huge piece of my life. So I know someone's watching. So even to the point of like, I won't even drop a rapper and not pick it up at this point, because it's that, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So integrity for us is the number one word that I'll abuse as much as possible, because it's our number one, first and foremost core value. Because the second that you breach it is the second that like it just transcends so many other things in your life. And you can take 20 years building up a really good relationship and 1 second to lose it all.
Yeah.
So the last thing I ever want to be known for is somebody that's not operating under the scope of integrity.
When you got out of life insurance into what you're doing now with formerly GFG, you mentioned down the road, billion with a B. You mentioned 25K in a month selling life insurance, but you probably weren't thinking billion with a B when you got into what you're doing. Like, what were you thinking when you got into what you're doing, and why did you choose to go into that from life insurance?
Yeah, great question. I didn't start thinking about billion with a B till like a year ago. And then I was like, wow, we're onto something. And we're doing it right, and the market's really responding. And there's like 50-year-olds that are making hundreds of millions of dollars that respect these 28-year-olds' opinions. So that's when I started to really lean into what we were doing. And to answer your question, I think it was Landon, bro, to be honest with you, because like I'm not like that passionate about what I do. I'm just so passionate about services in general. Like I'm so bullish on service-based businesses, because like think about business, and like I'm going to try and dumb this down because my head just goes at a million miles an hour, as you could probably tell. But the coolest thing about businesses, especially in services, is like you are this founder and you have all this freaking crazy stuff going on in your head, and you're eventually able to create intellectual property or a service or a product that serves a need in the market that people genuinely need. So number one, you're able to take this idea in your head and serve people that actually need it. And you give them value, and they give you back value in the form of money most of the time, right? With that money, instead of hoarding all of it, you eventually, if you want to create a solution to solve bigger problems, you have to take all of this intellectual property and delegate all of the shit that you don't like doing, which then creates jobs. That's how the economy gets built. It's not by all these public corporations. Yeah, that's great. But the small business world is what the economy actually is. So think about how cool that is like you have the ability to take this idea in your head and feed people with it. Like truly feed people, and then take the rest of that excess money and give back and keep on building it that way. So I think that's what makes me the most passionate is like, this is a really cool business model that allows us to really tangibly do that, because not only am I doing that model, but then when we're helping people continue to build wealth, they're running that same play in their businesses. So it's like this massive web effect that we're truly creating massive impact in the world. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that's good. You like prompted me with a good question to follow up with, which is like, to this point, I don't know what episode this is going to be, but I'm being very intentional with the guests, and it seems like a common theme. All these people I'm having on are successful by, all terms or all means of the definition, but they're like, no one has just said like, oh yeah, I'm doing it for money. I'm doing it to be rich. Like all of you guys, including yourself, have like this underlying desire to just like make impact in a positive way, which is super cool. So for those of you guys watching, take note of that.
Yeah. I mean, like if I was just doing it for money, I would probably just do something else that was easier. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I am definitely in business to make money. There's no doubt about that. Anyone that tells you they're not is just being foolish. But with what intention? It's like most people associate wealth with money. It's just, I think money is just an opportunity to obtain wealth.
Yeah.
It's a totally different shift. So Heal Bloom is a really good resource for that stuff.
You brought up something good when you were describing, or when you were answering one of the last questions, which is some 28-year-olds dealing with 50-year-olds, 8-9-figure net worth. A lot of the people you deal with are older. They're like more established. They're not the easiest people to sell to or work with in general. Like, they're not saying they're the hardest, but like there's definitely easier people to sell to, right? What's your experience selling such, again, like around this like sensitive service to people who have already done what you've done like 10x?
It's actually so much easier. I hate to answer it that way, but
that's good.
Much easier, bro, because they have had those types of clients have had less time looking at the bullshit content that's out there, where the younger guys, like, they've heard of a lot of these strategies. They think they know it all. They think they could do it. And they haven't paid enough of like both like actual tax and metaphorical tax of like seeing all the things that could go wrong. Like the younger generation, and I'm a part of the younger generation, I'm 28 years old. We haven't had enough time in the business cycle to truly realize how hard business really is. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that now, because like a lot of the bad actors are getting weeded out right now, which the people that are really good are gaining all the market share, which I'm thankful for. But business was made out to be like easy over the last couple of years, especially with interest rates being low. You can get people on payment plans so much easier, financing, blah, blah, blah. Business is hard. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So the people that have been more experienced in business are easier for us to work with. And I'm biased because our solution caters to that individual because they've had so many bad advisors throughout their life. So they know what a truly good solution looks like. And typically we're like one of one right now. We're this like blue ocean where no one's like really leaned into the IP that we've created. Everyone's kind of dabbled in it, but they've never like staked their claim in like, this is what we do. So everyone's like, oh dude, this is like, I've never seen this before. Like I'm in. So it's actually been much easier. So I think it's like, how do you continue to level up your product? Because the second people stop saying that of like, this is something that I've never heard of or anything like that, you're not innovating fast enough. We're always just trying to be ahead of that curve and always hearing that, that feedback from people.
So why not just do something that has already been proven to sell for $1 billion? Like, I'm going to go back to the car example. He never sold cars. That was just the first thing I thought of. But like, there's people that sell car dealerships for billions. The playbook is out there. Why are you going down this route that is like undefined?
Because part of me wants to build something that hasn't been created already. Because like, what fun is it just doing the same thing that people have done over and over again? Like, because you'll make money if you're skillful enough of a human. You'll make money in any industry. It doesn't matter. It transcends all of it, especially if you have a good sales skills, right? So with that, and number one, I want to make sure that I articulate this properly. Like, my best form of sales is my fulfillment. I don't need to be that good at sales, even though I do believe that we're pretty solid at sales. Our fulfillment is the sales and marketing engine. Because when you get somebody like Dylan to talk about you, once they tell somebody about you, they can borrow Dylan's credibility and immediately know that like, if they respect Dylan, they should respect us. So it makes our time to value a lot quicker. That being said, the financial services industry is relatively antiquated, and it's filled with a bunch of greedy people generally that are just trying to make money. And there is no bigger business or a way to make egregious amounts of money than in financial services. It's like, I think it's far and away the number one industry of like billionaires and like mega amounts of money, because there's a lot of money in money. So with that, I just don't think it's been done right as well as it should be, especially for the small business owner world. Small business owners have kind of just been like left in that no man's land place. This is a solution where I like purposely want to disrupt. I want to disrupt it, and I want people to doubt us what we're doing. I want people to be like, oh, this guy's so young. What's he trying to do here? I love that shit. It's a higher stakes game that I think it's fun to play. So
how much of that do you get currently? Of the doubt and what they're doing is it's not worth it. It's not good. Like,
no, not much, to be honest with you. Only like people that are not willing to collaborate, which thankfully I've built out this world and network of people that I get introduced to are typically collaborative in nature. It's only the people that are scarce minded, that are doing something similar, that are like, oh dude, because this landscape, you can collaborate and everyone can win. We can't serve every client. So how is like, we're always finding ways to do business with other people. I've done it all through joint ventures. I just, I feel bad for anyone that wasn't willing to collaborate because they missed out for sure.
What's your take on competition? I know you're kind of in a lane of your own, but there's definitely people who do parts of what you do. And I'm sure there will be people who start to do what you guys are doing if there's not already. But like, what's your take on competition?
Like I said, we collaborate more than we compete, but we compete internally for sure. I'm always creating a healthy form of competition because I'm an athlete. So like, that's what drives me. That's what keeps me in flow. If I'm not competing, I'm not in flow. And the way that I'm able to conceptualize, like even this podcast right now is game time for me. I'm not competing against you. You're not competing against me, but like we're in game time. So we're on the field right now. So that's the way I've been able to rationalize it. And then anytime that we're feeling true competition from a business model perspective, that like there's competitors there, we're not innovating fast enough. So it's actually a good indicator that I need, if I'm feeling that way, because that'll come up, that I need to pivot or like make some changes.
You mentioned you being an athlete. We talked about it a little bit earlier. A lot of the most successful people I know have formerly competed, whether athletically or some other type of way. But I want to ask you, amongst like a lot of the people that you work with and that you meet, what are some other common traits? I'm gonna assume being an athlete is a pretty common one, that like if you're good at sports, you're good at athletics, you can like apply that work ethic and make something halfway decent. But like, what are some other common traits that you see in like some of the most successful people that you work with?
Yeah, they're extremely collaborative in nature and they're people first. So what I've observed by the most successful people is like, you can be pretty good. Like you could be like decently skillful at something and still make millions of dollars. I've seen it so many places, and sadly to seen it that way. But the elite people are people that are changing the game. Like in order to be elite, you need to put in a different level of work. And to get to that next level of business, which let's consider the next level 9 figures plus, it's only done through people. And the billionaires, all those types of people, it's only done through network. So like, that's where I'm so big on relationships, because relationships are seeds, and those seeds, like, you're going to end up watering a bunch of bad seeds too, but you have to be willing to do that because some of those seeds are bamboo trees. So it's like, how can I water as many relationships and deposit into as many as possible? Because that's for me the game. I want to be the guy that knows the guy so that anytime someone has a problem, they come to me for the solution, and I can always rather outsource the solution or I have the solution. Over time, when you're the facilitator of that, your name gets brought up in places. So it's also a way of like, quote unquote, being selfish. Like I'm selfishly selfless by giving people opportunities to make magic, knowing that my name will come up long term and it'll build goodwill. It's not something you can quantify, but it's definitely tangible.
I mean, just today, man, like it's a Tuesday, you're in Austin. I guarantee someone has talked about you in some capacity today because of the work that you've done, the conversation you had. That's the stuff that works, you know, when you're sleeping, when you're out of town, when you're on a podcast. And if you do good business, like it's in the right way, you know, because who knows, after this podcast, you look at your phone, there's another introduction to a potential client. So
the last podcast it was,
and
I don't take it lightly. I'm appreciative and proud of myself for the work that I put in because it's hard, but I also am big into God, spiritual stuff. And so I'm very, very thankful for the position that he's put me in to be able to do that. And for like perfect example of this, and I don't take it lightly, like I said, I had food poisoning while we were in Japan, that whole mastermind, right? So I was barely out of my room. But the second I got down there, everyone was like, yo, you're the guy that everyone's been talking about. Like, we got to connect. Let's talk. And that's pretty freaking cool, man. It takes years and years of doing that where no one's seeing a lot of the work that you're putting in. But like, I mean, dude, I have like relationship CRMs in the back end of like managing my own personal Rolodex of who do I need to be bringing value to. Like, it's a job, but it's definitely well worth it.
I want to talk about work ethic a little bit. I know a lot of people who work hard, but from what I can tell, you work harder than a lot of those people. And what is that
harder?
What does that really mean? Is it like the work that he's doing is laborious, or is it just like how attentive that he is? Like, you know, there's different ways to define that, but what, like when it comes to you and the way that you go about conducting business, like why do you work that hard? Like what drives you to work that hard? By the way, he's always like, if I text him, I mean, within the hour, no matter usually whatever he's doing, if I email within the day, like, and I know he has a lot going on, which is really impressive. So like, how do you manage this?
Part of it's unhealthy, right? Like part of it's like somewhere where I don't want that to be the MO all the time. Cause like, one, he who works all day has no time to make money. So like if you're constantly working in the business, you got no time to work on the business, right? So it's a lot of times it ends up being a detriment. And also while I'm able to operate at a high level there, it leaves me drained for my relationships at home and things like that. So I don't want to make it sound like it's like this beautiful, glamorous thing, because like I'm definitely working hard, but probably harder than I need to be. Once you get to a certain point, you can't really outwork the problem. Leverage is the only thing that helps, and systems and people are really the only way. So it's tough because I'm sure you've realized this, and a lot of sales guys listen to this as well. Is like you can like when you're in sales, especially like as much money as you can make, there's eventually a cap because of the fact that you have to put time in, right? And you need to delegate, but it's actually going to be more time consuming and hurtful to delegate in the short term because you got to train that person too. So you get stuck in this massive pain loop. But what is the cost of not doing that? Just more misery, right? So like I've been just through enough pain loops to get the feedback of knowing what I need to do and realizing that at the end of the day, like the intention that I'm bringing and the energy that I bring, the passion I bring, my clients and my people that I know, they know that. So I can give myself permission to not be perfect all the time. And I wasn't able to do that for a long time until I was like, you know what? People know that like how much I care. I don't have to be perfect all the time. So that allowed me to shut off at 7 p.m. at times and, you know, take vacations and all that stuff.
I don't want to paint it out to be like a glamorous thing because like, you know, anyone that has something worth getting that most people don't have, like they usually had to do things that other people didn't want to do or just didn't do. And it's usually not all like sunshine and rainbows, you know. But I was going to ask you, a lot of people who start businesses, they get, sales established, they get the product, the fulfillment established. Maybe they hire some help on the fulfillment side. And then the very next thing is hiring salespeople. To my knowledge, you still take all the sales calls.
Yeah. So I want to say this with a grain of salt because I know this is, you're huge, it's against what you're sometimes what you've built, right? I think sales is like the last thing you should potentially outsource in your business. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have sales rep in your company. Our company, like the way that we operate is a little bit less volume, so we don't need as many sales reps and stuff like that. But sales is arguably, as the founder, the number one driver of like the number one KPI that you can probably be focusing on for long enough. That is a very useful bit of your time. It immediately like your business needs cash flow. You can spend the time to get the cash flow and no one will be able to sell your product like you, and especially in the beginning. Yeah. Because when you're first beginning, you need to be knowing what your market wants so that you can change and tweak your product as well. So in the beginning, I would never outsource sales when you're first starting an offer. I think that's inherently dumb. because you need to be able to like pivot on the fly, right? That being said, yeah, I still run all the sales, all of it. So like I'm taking a lot of calls, but it's beautiful and abundant. I get to learn get to learn from some people that are like super high level. So it's like I'm not only taking sales calls with 8-9 figure founders, I'm also building a network with 8-9 figure founders. And the best client you take on sometimes is the one you turn away. So like the client you don't take on is typically one of the most powerful people in your network, because you knew, like, you were being very integrous and that person knew about it. And typically they become one of the best referral sources or a client down the road or whatever that looks like. So I'll take as many conversations and all that type of stuff. Where I've went wrong is I stuck myself into fulfillment for a long time too. So it's like, it's been a little tough for sure.
Leave that to Landon. No, and I agree with that, man. I agree. Like, it should definitely be one of the later things, but I'm just curious because like, it's not like you don't have the money to hire a salesperson. It's just like, there's other benefits to you maintaining that position for the time being. Do you ever intend to?
Yeah, we will. I would say we're probably a year or two away from it, just because, especially as we're leaning into the branding and stuff, I need the feedback on the front end as well. So I'm willing to go through, I don't even say pain or misery. I'm just willing to go through like staying on in that role. Cause like, I mean, I won't go too into the numbers, but like every sales call, like if we go to we have a 4-step process and I have the data to support this. So like the second it gets to step 2, the close rate is like 85%. If it goes to step 3, it's like 95%. Once we get to step 4, it's 100%. Because like I only allow it to go. I'm the buyer, not the seller. That's the way that we go, is like the client has to sell me because I have something that they can't get in the market. And I know that right now.
Yeah.
Because no other solution exists right now like that. So I'm the buyer of this person as a client, but I'm still going to articulate the information in a way where I want to influence this person to make a good decision, right? But every time we're moving forward with clients, at least 1 to 150 plus of revenue. So it's like, that's a pretty high usage of our time.
Yeah.
So, and then that's like not even before all the internal sales go on. So like, it's definitely still a major KPI that I can focus on.
Yeah, I see that. That makes sense. I want to ask you, because we're pushing up on time here. Two more questions. First one being a message to your former self as a salesperson and to the people watching this. In hindsight, what do you wish you did better? What do you wish you did more of? Like, what are your like 2 or 3 biggest regrets or things that you wish you could have changed?
Yeah. I wish I initially started building my business around my life, not my life around my business. Plug in the things that are mainly priority to you personally, because I live by my calendar. So if it's on the calendar, it happens. And so like plug in the things that you want to do. Family time, even if you want to watch Netflix or stuff like that, like everything that you're doing is for the opportunity to do the things that you truly want to do. Like, I don't think all of us just want to be on sales calls. We're doing it so that we can generate revenue so that we can buy freedom back. But the freedom's already there if you allow it to be. That's one thing that I wish I told myself is like, hey, not everything's in a rush.
Yeah.
Not like you're hurrying to a destination that doesn't exist. Number 2, define what success looks like to you, or else you're going to borrow someone else's version of it and you're not going to be happy. And number 3, consistency wins. That's, I mean, like I have it tattooed on the forum. I don't know how else to say it without it being corny, but you know, if you can reverse engineer a long-term goal and dial it down to a set of micro habits that you just have to execute on a daily basis, regardless of your emotions, regardless of how you feel. It's about like, don't overcommit, keep it really small. You are scientifically proven. Logic, math, and science is on your side saying that you are guaranteed to hit this outcome, because enough people have done it to where we've been able to reverse engineer what they do, right? If I could just dial it down to a set of micro habits and focus on my health, focus on my personal development, focus on my income, all these types of things, everything else takes care of itself. So your personal development is literally all that matters.
It's fire. You guys watching this, I want to ask Antonio this last question to give you guys some perspective. You've heard some things that maybe you weren't expecting to hear. A really cool dude to have on the podcast. So I'm glad you guys got to see this one. I'm glad I got to host it. But when you think of your life because of sales, like learning how to sell, but also having the guts to pursue this profession. He's not just a salesperson, but like so much of what you do is, I got the right guy. It wasn't Landon on this one. It was you, because you're the salesperson. But yeah, man, like what does your life look like if you never learned how to sell and you never chased that opportunity?
Yeah, I'd be a lot broker. Well, for starters, right? But like, I think sales transcends everything, even outside of business, right? So it's like, it's everything. Your ability to have conversations. Like, I'm able to do so many more things in my life just because I can sell with integrity. So like I want to make sure that's a very, very nuanced point, but with integrity, because like even for example, you're pretty much like hacking life. Because like for example, yesterday, our Airbnb, very, very strict about you can only sign in at 4:00, right? Janice was at the front desk. Janice, you are lovely today. Like you are, how can I serve you? I want you to know that you're doing a great job at what you're up to. Like no one's telling Janice these things throughout the day, right? And I'm not being fake. I'm coming off with real energy of like just giving her appreciation. We checked in at fucking 2:00 at that point, and they were like very strict about that. Just because like you're coming off with energy that most people aren't. And it's not, and the key is to make sure that that's not authentic. In the beginning, it's probably going to feel unauthentic until you like eventually learn the trait of truly being an authentic individual. So it's like, it's just served me in so many other areas of my life, even to the minute, stupid little things of like fantasy. I'm obsessed with fantasy baseball, right? Like getting trades through. You're selling. You're selling in every opportunity. When you're engaged, right? Mm-hmm. You're selling your prospective wife
for sure
on like that's the ultimate prospect. So I think it transcends everything. Sales is all about like your ability to communicate effectively. That's really it. I don't really use many tactics and stuff. The only number one tactic, quote unquote, I use that's really effective is mirroring. Literally just repeating back what the person said, so that number one, like my pea brain can understand it, but then also to make the person feel like they've been heard.
Yeah. So you guys heard it here. I mean, sales is the foundation to truly unlock the life that you want. I mean, getting a sales job is an easy first step, but learning how to master this skill and then overlay other skills on top of it, you can build some really cool things. If you want to see other things, like go watch past episodes. Like all the guys are super, super solid. But we'll wrap up there. Antonio, where do they find you?
I'm most active on Instagram. It's Antonio Vaglica Jr. The new podcast will be launched June 1, which is called The Momentum Shift, which Dylan will be a guest of as well. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, that's probably, and the Fractional Family Office website will be launching August 1. So cool. Very excited.
I would put in my vote for you being the most like underrated follow, because you don't have like 100,000.
No, I'm like I'm the guy that all like the big guys with followings know behind the scenes, but it's time that I'm actually excited to build a following. So we have Bobby here. We're doing a bunch of videography stuff, but it's tough for me because like I don't like it feels forced at times. So I told Bobby, I said, hey dude, I want to live my life and you can get it on camera. I'm an open book, but like I can't do any of this like forced stuff. So I'm excited for what's to come.
I'm doing the same thing right now. Guys, go follow him. Go see who follows him. And then tell me you don't want to follow him, because the guy knows his stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in because of sales. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter below. See you in the next one.
Appreciate you, dude.
All right, guys, that's the pod with Antonio. Antonio's one of my favorite guys in the network, man. So educated for his age, and above all, just like a really stand-up guy who's doing really big things. If you enjoyed what Antonio had to say, go connect with him on all the platforms. He's about to start hitting a big content push. All of his links are going to be down below. If you're currently making a lot of money and you want to make sure you're maximizing it, go work with Antonio. As of recording this, I've been with them for almost a year, and they've changed my life. Last thing, you guys, if you are not subscribed to our newsletter because of sales, go subscribe now. Every single week, every Wednesday, we're sending you a lot of cool stuff to keep you cutting edge as a sales rep or a business owner, and the highlights of these interviews. So if you don't have time to watch a whole hour-long podcast, take 5 minutes in the morning, learn something new, and get better at your job. As of recording this, we're about 6 weeks in from launching, and we've got 750 subscribers, which is pretty cool, but we're still really, really early. So your support is much appreciated. So thank you very much. That's all for this one, you guys. Go connect with Antonio. My stuff is down below. Subscribe to the newsletter. We'll see you in the next.